Hey guys, welcome back. It's your brother in Christ, Weston. Thanks for joining me today. So today's article comes out of End Times Headlines. Let's get into it. Hey guys, probably one of the most disturbing videos I'm probably going to make here is exactly what a Roman society, Romans 1 society looks like, where God is removing his hand. This is how you have to understand this. God allows grace. He can remove grace when he wants to, right? And so that's at a set period in time when that will happen. But as we see God's hand removing itself or lightening up against the evil powers that be, demons, principalities, dominions, everything that's satanic and evil, right? Antichrist, we see that the culture and the society and man gets more wicked and they just operate in their own nature, right? And this is our nature. So let's read. It says here, drag racing marchers spark outrage with, "We're coming for your little ones." I'm going to say it like that because I don't want to say that sentence together. Chant at NYC Sinful Pride event. How about we say it that way so the words don't, so I don't get hit with like a weird, I don't know, protected class. You can't say anything about us. And this outrage is, I can't believe this is a protected class. Anyways, let's go. The alphabet community activists participating in New York City's annual drag racing car march. Our Friday sparked outrage for chanting, "We're here, we are queens, we're coming for your little ones. We're here, we're queens, and we're coming for your little ones." Hold on. Let's go to Genesis 19. Before we even continue, let's go to Genesis 19. Verse 1. "Now 2 angels came to Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting at the gate of Sodom. When Lot saw them, he rose to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face toward the ground. And he said, 'Here now, my lords, please turn in your servant's house and spend the night. And then wash your feet, and you may rise early and go your way.'" So he knows he's talking to angels. And they said, "No, we will spend the night in the square." But he insisted strongly. So they turned to him and entered his house, and he made a feast for them and baked them unleavened bread, and they ate. Now, before they lay down, the men, not the women, the men of the city and the men of Sodom, both old and young. Why are the young operating like this? Because the old are teaching them. The old men dictate a culture, dictate a society. It's men. All the people from every quarter surrounded the house, and they called to Lot, and they said to him, "Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out so that we may know them carnally." Now, this is where Lot would then offer his daughters. And by offering his daughters, they still say no. They're like, "Nope, we don't want that. We want the men." They want the men, right? So the angels are men. Are all angels men? I don't know. But at least these angels and the angels that we know of are men. For that, this is alphabet style community stuff, right? It is mirroring the same of what we're going through today. Romans 1 says this. And when you go all the way down to God's wrath on unrighteousness, right? Verse 18, "For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven unto all godliness and unrighteousness to men who suppress the truth in unrighteousness, because of what may be known of God is manifested in them. For God has shown it to them, for since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes are clearly seen and understood by things that are not made, in his eternal power and Godhead. Because although they knew God, they know they did not glorify him as God, nor were thankful, became futile in their thoughts, and in their foolish hearts were darkened. Professing to be wise, they became fools and changed the glory of the incorruptible God into an image, right, of incorruptible man. I don't want to worship you. I know about you, but I'm going to change this image into what I want to see, because this is what I want to worship. And then I'm none the wiser, because you know what? I'm worshiping this God or my heart's desire or my flesh desire or anything like that, right? Therefore, God gave them up. Remember that God can give them up. God gave them up. He will give up on the unrighteous, because they will always be unrighteous. That's why he can give them up, and he can do it justly. God gave them up to uncleanness and the lust of their hearts, to dishonor their bodies among themselves, who exchanged the truth of God for a lie and worship and serve the creature rather than the Creator, who is blessed forever. Amen. For this reason, God gave them up to vile passions 2 times. For the women exchanged natural use for what is against nature. Likewise, men, leaving the natural use of women, burn in lust for one another, and men committing what is shameful, receiving in themselves the penalty of error which was due. And even this they did not retain. After all this, God does it again. It says, even this they did not retain God in their knowledge, so God gave them up to a debased mind. As God it's as God does it. He is pressing down on your wickedness and subduing it in some way, form, or fashion. Evil just doesn't get to do evil things because it's evil. No, God has to allow it, and he does it for a purpose. But as he starts to allow things to happen, the wickedness that would naturally take its course is going to operate wickedly. This is what we're saying. It says, gave him up to a debased mind to do things which are not fitting, being fulfilled with unrighteousness, sexual morality, wickedness, covetous, maliciousness, full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, evil-mindedness. They are whisperers, backbiters, haters of God, violent, proud, boasters, inventors of evil things, disobedient of parents, undiscerning, untrustworthy, unloving, unforgiving, unmerciful, who know the righteous judgment of God and who practice. So it's like almost 30 things, 21 things, 30 things, deserving of death. Not only do they do the same, but they also approve of those who practice them. Approve of those who practice them. So when we read the article again, it says, according to the NYP, the marchers were wearing flamboyant dresses and clothing, walked with Tompkins Square Park in East Village on Friday night during the march, during this sinful pride march. Video of the march shows people laughing and joining in a cheeky chant. That's not a cheeky chant. That is a disturbing, dark, demented, always was the plan chant to get your children. This is exactly what that is. This is exactly that kind of depravity, that abomination that leads to. It leads to the innocence of children, and to get them at a certain age. My wife told me the other day, or told me last night, that if people like this can get children at a certain age, around before the age of 7, there's something that happens psychologically to them that it lives with them forever, and they end up operating in this lifestyle. And so end up having to break that down the way, or believing this is the truth. And so it's so sad, because every time you hear stories like this about somebody who operates in said activity, there was always something that happened in their childhood, and it was most likely a man committing something with a little girl or a young man. And we can see that the old and the young wanted to go to the angels and said, let them come out so we can know them carnally. The whole city, the whole town, all the men. And it's wild to think that there's a society that would do that. And Lot says, no, take my daughters. They don't even burn for a woman. I'm just going to tell you right now, sex is always going to be better when it's a male and a female. It would never, ever, ever, ever be even comparable or on the same scale as sex when it's the same sex. There's just no way. There's absolutely no way. It's not. It's disgusting. It's vile. It's an abomination. And it leads, how do I say it? It births these wicked Romans 1 sinful desires that lead to the innocence of children. That is wild. Let's keep moving. Others can be heard, I'm almost done here. Others can be heard chanting, we're queens, we're not going shopping. I don't know what that means. Festive marchers continued in their march against Stonewall and Greenwich Village. The controversial chant incensed conservatives who condemned the marchers, and the video spread on social media. This is the video that I listened to yesterday, told my wife, and I knew I had to go over it. So let's hear it. And then they change it to shopping, and they do it, and they're laughing, and they're flamboyant about it. There's a woman who's topless over here that just has some kind of something wrapped around her nipples, and it's just full on. This is that lifestyle. This is what's happening. I know people who may have same-sex desires, yet still would never operate in said way, and obviously they're saved. Excuse me, they are saved. I know people who are like that that are saved, and they fight those desires just like a man would fight his own desires heterosexually. So the two are the same in terms of their sin. It's the actions that take place now, right? When we start operating in said sin and lustful desire, and then we move it even further and say, now I'm going to do said thing. There's a difference between thoughts and desires, right? Those things are going to happen all the time, but we can fight. That's why we put on our spiritual armor. But this is when, and it could go both ways, right? And it most certainly could, right? Because you could say people who are something philia, that starts with a P, philia, right? And they're not drag racing queens, okay? LGTV, alphabet community, who are heterosexual, do these things. And it's absolutely disgusting. And it's vile, the fact that you would want to operate in said way towards a child. But then when you have people who, there's a difference between doing it privately and then even doing it publicly. Publicly, you're letting everybody know. There's no caution or discretionary or anything. I want the world to know that I operate in this lifestyle and I want your children. And my mind just goes, and I want to do these things with your children. And I want to groom them. And I want to get them pregnant. And I want to take their virginity. And I want to literally destroy their minds, their thoughts, their worth, their value, their identity, and cast it upon a child because of your own trauma. And this is satanic. It is super dark. And this should never, there should never be one of these events, not even a sinful pride event, ever. Ever. This should never, ever, 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 ever happen. I'm not comparing sin to sin, but what I'm saying, when you're public about something, there's something very wicked about something that tries to be normalized. I saw a video yesterday of a preacher who said Satan tries to change the wording on things we call sin. And it was so good and so powerful. And just thinking about the names, instead of adultery, we call it adult entertainment. Instead of lust, we call it thoughts and feelings, something like that. He was taking sins and then literally just changing the name to give it a different name. Means the same thing, but it sounds less. It sounds less sinful. It sounds not as bad, and it's not this. So you can kind of just cognitive dissonance yourself between the name of the sin and just changing the name and saying, well, it's not this, but it really is. It really is that. And there's something in our mind that does that switch, right? That says, well, this is not sinful, but if I do it this way, then it is. And then it's, or this is sinful, but if I do it like this, it's not sinful. If I change the name, then this is what I'm believing. You try to trick yourself in becoming ignorant in something that you've just changed the name, right? Adultery is always adultery. You can't never not have adultery if you're doing it, and it can't be called adult entertainment. Having pride can't be, you can't change it to being very brave or courageous, even those are different words, but does somebody try to mask that, right? This is a prideful thing. No, we're brave and we're courageous, right? We're walking these streets. No, you're not. You're changing the name. So then it almost does this chemical dopamine effect or something in your mind that would change it and go, well, it's not this anymore, right? And it's like you trick yourself. This is disgusting. And this is where we're at. And I wanted you to watch this. I wanted you to see this because I want you to know this is happening. So anyways, guys, that's the video. Let me know what y'all think, and I'll see you in the next one.